Hi guys. I'm going to talk about writing a summary. I know that this is something that your teachers have asked you to do for years now, but a lot of us struggle with writing a summary. So I definitely wanted to spend some time talking about how we can write an effective summary. Um, so they write a brief retelling of a story. Different strategies can be used to summarize. Guys, the most important thing is that it has to be brief. It can't be super long. A lot of kids, when they struggle with writing a summary, what they do is they say, okay, I can't pull out all the important information, so I'm just going to tell my teacher every single thing that happened. Um, and that's not always the best way of doing something. Um, it's not retelling the story. Well, it is a retelling of the story, but like not like how um you would go and say, "Oh my gosh, Susie, this crazy thing happened to me over the weekend. I woke up and you start all the way from the beginning of your weekend and you tell exactly step by step what you did, okay? That's the original telling of the story. But the retelling of that story, it's like when Susie goes and tells it to somebody else. Um, she's going to leave out some things that aren't important. Okay, I didn't need to know that you had pancakes for breakfast. Okay, um, I just need to know the most important details. So that's what I want you to think about. Not like how you would tell a story for the first time, but how you would tell that story for a second time. So here are some things to think about. Okay, someone. Who is the story about? The main characters. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've read a summary and they're like, the main character did this. Okay, state the main character's name. So if you're retelling The Giver, you say Jonas. Don't refer to him as he or the boy in the book or the main character. I need to know that you actually know this character's name. That's a very important detail. If you don't know the character's name, that's a big red flag to me as a teacher. So, what did the main character want? So that's something that you need to think about and say, okay, well, what is this person's drive? What are they trying to do? But what was the problem? What stood in their way? So, how did the main character try and solve this problem? And then was this problem resolved? Now, not every single time is this going to happen. Like I'm asking you to summarize every week. This is a perfect thing to do for retelling the whole novel. However, when I'm asking you to do everything every week, sometimes I might only get up to wanted. Okay, the problem might not be introduced. If you're reading, let's say, a 215 page book, which is pretty, it's not too crazy. I would say your problem should be introduced by like page, I don't know, 40, 45. So if you're past that point, you might need to reread and just be like, well, what's the issue here? Because a book without an issue isn't a book. We are always going to have a conflict of some sort. Um, but we might not know how the character tries to solve the problem yet. That's probably going to come up a little bit later. I would say in a book of 200 pages, I would probably say that comes up maybe page 100, 115 ish. And that's going to be the big, huge chunk of the book. Um, and then the problem will be resolved. That's probably going to be in the last chapter or the last chapters, maybe like the last like 3 or 4 chapters. But make sure you hit these things. Who is the story about? Main character or characters? Where does the story take place? What problems did the main character face? In important events, what events lead to the resolution? Resolution is like how the book wraps up. The They all lived happily ever after. Or how was the problem resolved, and how does the story end? Sometimes if you're reading a series, it's not going to be completely resolved, or they're going to introduce a new conflict. um like when watching Avengers, okay? I'm just using this as an example because most people have read it. When you watch Infinity War, the resolution isn't quite there because Thanos snaps his fingers and half the population of the galaxy dies. There wasn't really they didn't really solve the problem that they were trying to stop Thanos because Thanos won. So there wasn't a resolution in Infinity War, but there was a resolution in Endgame. So you see how that you have to kind of be mindful of that. You can use some transition words to kind of help retell your story. And then also ask these questions as you go: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those are just some quick ways to kind of remember, okay, I'm taking the standardized test and I need to retell a story. I'm going to just do who, what, when, where, why, and how. And a lot of the times that will help make sure that we come up with everything. So, okay, guys, that's summarizing.